Depression. One of the most serious negative states can be the result of long-standing self-pity, which particularly can lead to a loss of power to make effort. Even the mildest self-pity is negative in color. It can turn into romance with oneself, but is negative and has the color and taste of negative emotion, if we try to observe it. There was a teacher once that said, "If you will not pity yourself, then I will pity you." A dog, when it is washed, pities itself sometimes. What does it do? It takes advantage, jumps on your bed when it knows it must not. The teacher had a dog called Kakvas, which means like yourself. The thing to realize is that everyone tends to pity themselves. Rich or poor, married or single, successful or a failure. When a person pities themselves, they feel that they are owed, like the dog. If you feel that you are owed, then you will never truly begin to work on yourself. How could you? You must feel that you owe instead. To make the effort to work on yourself, you must actually feel something is wrong with you. It usually takes years before a person can even begin to see this with any conviction. The work has to pass through layer after layer of pride, vanity, ignorance, self-complacency, self-indulgence, self-love, self-merit, and so on. Yet it can penetrate eventually. But before it can, the first sign is that a person suddenly begins to realize the work is talking about something real, and they begin thinking about the ideas. The first change is in the mind and lies in thinking differently. This is metanoia in the Gospels but incorrectly translated as repentance. It is called driver awakening in the work and begins with realizing one's situation. We must understand that this is uncommon. People seldom really think of the work from themselves, as if their life depended upon it. This is because they do not feel that anything is wrong with them, although they are certain of course that others are wrong. It is like the man who became short-sighted and refused to wear spectacles, saying there was nothing wrong with him, but that the trouble was all recent publications are so badly printed. What's referred to here is a step that people must take. As long as we think in the same way and feel in the same way, then we are mechanical. We are a machine, but again imagine otherwise. Our life is not action as we imagine, but reaction. And we react to things in the same mechanical way, over and over again. It is only by seeing that we are a machine, first in some small aspect, then with regard to something else, that we can call upon the right emotion to help in bringing about change. Fortunately, there is something in us that hates mechanicalness. However, this is lulled to sleep by our imagination, the belief that we are quite conscious and always act from will, from consciousness and one permanent I, always knowing what we are doing and saying, thinking and so on. It is only through conscious effort that we are able to realize our mechanicalness, and this effort must be made towards a definite thing, a definite reaction, something practical and clear, something distinct. To take it as theory is worse than useless. When one realizes one is mechanical in some definite respect, it gives a shock, and is actually a moment of self-remembering. To work against mechanicalness requires the effort of self-observation. The reason why we react to things in the same mechanical way over and over again is because of the connections and associations in and between our centers. However, we are not conscious of this until we observe our centers. In order to change, it is necessary to make centers work in some new way. Suppose, for example, that you always get upset when you cannot find something. Is this mechanical or not? Yes, it is a mechanical reaction that will regularly recur unless you put the light of consciousness into it. It is consciousness that changes us. First, the effort of self-observation is needed. Suppose you observe that you react by being negative if you cannot find a thing. This is the first effort, and this belongs to the general effort of self-observation, of becoming more conscious, of noticing oneself, and not always taking ourselves for granted. Next, observe your thoughts. What thought comes to you always when you have lost something? Then observe the emotion, notice it, its taste. Then notice your movements, your expression while you are agitated. Next time it will not be so easy to react mechanically when you lose something. What will help you? The work you have done previously on this mechanical reaction, namely the effort to be more conscious. Everything that we do consciously remains for us. Everything we do mechanically is lost to us. Speaking from the cosmological side of this work, something must now be said in preparation about the relationship of conscious effort, or effort in the work to mechanical effort, or effort in life. Work is vertical to life. All work effort is to lift a person to some higher level, and a higher level is vertical to them, that is above them. This, as a symbol, illustrates just one meaning of the cross. The vertical line is a line representing different levels of being, not only of man, but of the universe itself. A horizontal line, drawn at right angles, such as AB, and cutting the vertical line at C, will represent a person's life in time, at the level of being represented by the point C. The efforts we make from cause and effect in time, that is mechanical effort, lie along AB. The vertical line represents a direction of effort different from those made in time. We have been told that higher states of consciousness are timeless, i.e., without any sense of time. Movement on the vertical line is therefore timeless. A higher state of a man does not lie along the line AB, but above the man, namely on the vertical line. This line is what gives meaning to all things, and it represents the eternal scale of meaning. In approaching the cosmological side of this teaching, we have to understand that it is an essential part of the mental apparatus of the system, and without it the teaching cannot be rightly formed and connected in the different parts of the mind, as an instrument for the reception of the influences coming from higher centers. The cosmological side is a very powerful thing, but if no attempt is made to think of it, its force will not affect a person, and so they will not feel the work much beyond their limited self-interests. This is what is meant by cosmic consciousness. Try then to think of this vertical side. We can understand cause and effect in time. In time, cause always comes before effect, but cause is not only in past time. Cause can be above and below us. By illustration, take the table of cosmoses, from the earth downwards. Cosmos of earth. Cosmos of organic life. Cosmos of man. Cosmos of cells. Cosmos of molecules. Cosmos of atoms. You can see how man is not free, because he is a minute part of the cosmos of organic life, and composed of minute parts belonging to the cosmos of cells, which in turn are composed of minute parts, namely molecules, atoms, and so on. Man is composed of cells, which belong to their own cosmos. But man is part of organic life. If organic life dies, man, who is a part, would die. And if the cosmos below man, the myriads of cells, dies, then man would cease to exist. This vertical arrangement is permanent. It is, as it were, vertical cause and effect. Or you could call it permanent order, or permanent relationship, the interfit or dovetail of all things. Whether we say order, permanent arrangement, or relationship does not matter at present. What we have to see is that such a thing as order is not in time, but that time moves through order. Let's now see how vertical cause can be thought of. If we really begin to think of vertical cause, we see that there are two sorts, and two origins of what we call cause. Take for example a brick. What is the vertical cause of a brick? Bricks would not be made unless there were the idea of a house. Therefore, in the vertical meaning, the house is the cause of the brick. But in the temporal meaning, horizontal in time, the brick kiln is the cause. So it can be represented as illustrated. The bricks make the house in time, but the house makes the bricks in the vertical scale of meaning. Man, as stated, stands like this in the center of the cross. He has vertical meaning and temporal meaning. The temporal cause of man is the past in time. Vertical cause is his meaning. And his meaning will be the level of being to which he belongs. We have all heard that our level of being attracts our life. Which means that our life will be according to our level of being. Levels of being can be represented as points in the vertical line, and form life by the horizontal line. If our level of being changes, the horizontal line will pass through another point in the vertical line. Take hold at this point of the general principle involved in these illustrations, but don't compare them and just see the concepts behind them. The diagram of the cross as given represents a single moment in a person's life. In this single moment, the vertical line is cut across by the horizontal line of time. Every moment of a person's life can be represented in this way. The point of intersection of the vertical with the horizontal line is now. But this point only becomes now in its full meaning if the person is conscious. When someone is identified, there is no now for them. If they are asleep in time, being hurried on from past to future, identified with everything, there is no now in their life. There is not even a present moment. On the contrary, everything is running, everything is changing, everything is turning into something else, and even the moment so looked forward to, so eagerly anticipated, that when it comes, is already in the past. It is only this feeling of the existence and meaning of the direction represented by the vertical line that gives us a sense of now. This feeling is sometimes called the feeling of eternity. It is the beginning of the feeling of real I, for real I stands above us, not ahead of us in time. Eternity and time are incommensurable. That means that no quantity of time will ever make eternity, just as no quantity of length will make breadth. They belong to different dimensions. But eternity and time meet in man, at the point called now. In this vertical line there is no past or future. What takes the place of time, of past, present and future? What takes the place of time is state, level or quality. The vertical line represents position, not in time, as say the year 2024, or age such as being age 20 or 50, but position in the scale of states of being, in the level of understanding, and the quality of knowledge. Everything in the universe, visible and invisible, known and unknown, is at some point on this vertical line. Everything is inevitably at some point on this vertical scale, for everything finds its own level in it, according as it were, to its density, like objects floating as corks on the surface of the sea. All evolution in a real sense is to pass from one point to a higher point on this scale. Scale means ladder. In all the diagrams we are going to study, this idea of the universe as a ladder or scale is found, and that is why it is so necessary to gain some preliminary concept of the significance of this vertical direction that does not lie ahead of us, in the future of time, in next year, the next century or the next lifetime. That does not lie either in space or in time, but lies in another dimension, namely above us. In a limited way we all know of the existence of this vertical line, for we all know better and worse states of ourselves. This is particularly the case once a person has begun to work on themselves and to know what it means to separate from bad states, and what it means to be asleep. There are two kinds of influences that can reach us at any particular moment. One comes from the horizontal line, the line representing time. These are the influences of the past that enter at every moment into our lives, and also the influences coming from the future, that is, the future represented in the line of time that we are moving along. There are also other influences. When a person remembers themselves, they lift themselves in the vertical line upward, and taste for a moment a new state. This happens when someone no longer merely thinks about self-remembering, but actually does it, when they no longer try to escape from negative states by thinking themselves out of them, but stops all of their thoughts and lift themselves up into self-remembering. It is only by this inner movement that new influences can reach us. As we all know, it has been repeatedly said that help can only reach an individual if they remember themselves. It can only reach the third state of consciousness. In most of the ancient, medieval and later books, such as those of the 17th century which contain traces of esoteric ideas, which contain be influences, we can find this vertical direction represented. In the Old Testament, in the first 5 books or the Pentateuch as it is called, where all the stories are allegorical and contain a hidden meaning, we find the example of Jacob's ladder. This represents the universe seen in its vertical height and depth, as above and so below. Jacob represents man asleep at the bottom of the possible scale of development existing in him. It is related in Genesis that Jacob lay down in a certain place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold the angels of God ascending and descending on it. Let's therefore take a similar example from this system. We know that man in this system is taken in scale. There are different kinds of men, different in scale or level. Man is born as a self-evolving organism. He can rise from one level to another in this vertical scale. And that is why there is such a thing as esoteric teaching. All the knowledge belonging to this system is about the possibility of man undergoing an inner transformation and rising in the scale of being. In Christian and Islamic religions, for example, this is called union with God. To pass from one point in the vertical line to a higher point, a thing must be transformed, become different from what it was at a lower level. From the standpoint of this teaching, man is not a fixed point in the universe seen in this vertical manner, as is an animal which cannot change and is born what it must remain. Man is capable of inner change. He is an experiment. but is of no importance in the total universe unless he begins to fulfill the experiment that he represents. Perhaps we can understand what is meant when it is said that unless the universe were invisibly a vertical scale of ascending and descending values, there would be no meaning in it. The universe is a series of stages, of levels, of degrees, extending vertically from the highest to the lowest, and everything is at a certain point in the universe. The chair you are sitting on is at a different point in the universe from yourself. Yet if you take the universe as space, existing only in the 3 dimensions of space, you might think that you and the chair were at the same point in the universe. Man as a child of the universe, as a product of it, bearing in himself the stamp of the universe, that is to say, man has scale in him. 1. Work aim has to do with the vertical line. Life aim has to do with the horizontal line. A man can reach his life aim. When he does so, he usually is at a loss and does not know what to do. The supreme formulation of work aim is found in the Gospels, where it is said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Matthew, chapter 6, verse 23. The kingdom of heaven is above a man, not in the future of time, but now. It is a state of man, reached internally, and so is said to be within you. All the teaching in the Gospels is about the kingdom of heaven, that is, our aim is to ascend the vertical line. Here lies the possibility of a man's becoming a conscious man, and this is his hidden meaning, i.e. man can rise in the vertical scale. He is where he is in the vertical line and so has one life, but he can change his position in the universe. Life does not contain inexhaustible meaning, but the vertical line represents inexhaustible meaning, hence vertical aim can never be fulfilled as life aim might be. 2. The vertical line represents the line of transformation, and this line cuts at right angles, the horizontal line of time, which is the line of change. This needs to be explained. The line of transformation is at right angles to the line of change. We are aware that time is change from our high school science education. Nothing in time remains the same, even the mountains are changing slowly into deserts. But this change that belongs to time is not transformation. The passage of time does not transform a thing. It changes it, alters it, makes it, for example, decay or wear out. All things get older in time. But this is not transformation. Transformation does not lie along the horizontal line, but is a necessity in the vertical line. In this work, the term change of being ultimately means transformation of being. However, many changes must take place in time before any degree of transformation can occur. The inner arrangement of a man must change, i.e. the lower centers in us must be prepared by work before the transforming influences from higher centers can begin to reach us. The forces of transformation act from the vertical line. They act upon substances lying in the horizontal line in time. If these substances are in a fit state, that is if their qualities, quantities, and arrangement are right, transformation will result. Let's find an example of this. You know that in the cosmos below man, the world of living cells, certain of these cells are incomplete in their inner structure, because they are capable of developing into human beings. This is transformation. Strictly speaking, transformation is the real meaning of evolution. These cells have by union the necessary substances, and under certain conditions undergo transformation. Through the union of these cells, a human being results. However, as we all know, this takes a certain time as well. First in the internal arrangement of the minute world of the two cells after union and fertilization, where certain substances are selected and others are actually expelled from the united cells. And then with regard to their division, multiplication, and miraculous ordering subsequently. All these changes in time are controlled by the vertically acting forces of transformation, and the result is a passage of a living thing from one cosmos to another cosmos, from the cell cosmos to the cosmos of man. And, as we all know, similar and even more extraordinary transformation occurs in the insect world, where it would seem many experiments in transformation have already been made. A human being, a man, is again however incomplete, and so feels the desire for union. Those cells in him which are incomplete communicate their desire for completeness, and this forms one desire for union. But a man is not merely the reflection of the cell cosmos. He feels incomplete in other ways if he possesses magnetic center. Understand that in this vertical line, if we could move a thing upwards, it would at once become transformed. Whereas if we could move a thing in time, it would merely change, get younger or older according to the direction in which we moved it. 3. In this horizontal line representing our lives we live and move. But where this horizontal line cuts, the vertical line marks the point of our level of being, and what we experience in time is the result of our level of being. Being is vertical to time, and is a man's stature. There is an interesting phrase used in the Acts about this idea. Paul says that God is not far from each one of us. For, he says, in him we live, and move, and have our being. We live and move in time, but we have our being in this vertical line which descends from the highest to the lowest. But ordinarily we think that our origin lies in the horizontal line in time, namely the past, and we do not understand that our origin is also vertical to this line. You have heard the expression that essence comes from the stars, and when we talk about the ray of creation, we see plainly that the stars signify an order of worlds far above the earth in vertical scale. That is to say, essence in its origin, and remember that at birth we are essence, which lies above us. The point where it enters into time is the moment of our birth. The point where it leaves time is the moment of our death. In between these 2 points lies our life in time, where a development of essence is possible, and where, apart from this, personality is formed inevitably. Personality is formed in time and belongs to time, whereas essence enters time and leaves time. Essence is beyond time. The quality of essence belongs to the vertical line drawn at right angles to time, which means that essential being belongs here. Speaking in general, a man's being is made up of everything in him, but a man's essential being depends upon the development of his essence, what is real in him. This is what he is. In the phrase quoted from the Acts, when it is said in him we have our being, the Greek word used means we are. Or in him we are. Being is what we are, and the vertical line represents where a thing is in the total universe of meaning. A thing is where it is essentially. Being is from the verb to be, which signifies being. It is what we are. God is defined in the Old Testament as I am that I am. When Moses asked the name of God, the reply was, I am that I am. In life we try to be like something, we are always trying to be like something, always trying to imitate, always pretending to be something we are not. If a man were to find real I in himself, which lies vertically above him in the scale of being, he would no longer be like anything but would be himself, what he is. In this vertical scale the being of everything lies, the being of a stone, the being of a tree, the being of a dog, the being of organic life, the being of the earth, the being of the sun, the being of the starry galaxy. This is nothing to do with time. But to each level of being there is a scale in time allotted, for the perfection of being lies in time. We have our allotted span of life in time appropriate to changing our being. For as you know, from the standpoint of this work the whole universe, on every scale and in every degree, is evolving. This work does not teach that we live in a dying universe, but in an evolving one, and everything in it, in every different world or cosmos, is seeking its evolution, it is seeking to rise higher and higher in the level of being. In every cosmos something is working. We know directly that in the cosmos of man to which we belong, in this cosmos, something is working. This work itself is a sign of it. The whole idea of esotericism is a sign of it. We are taught that man is a self-evolving organism, that there is and always has been a special kind of teaching that deals with this inner evolution, and we are taught that there are conscious beings who have attained this possible inner evolution. So let's turn to the cosmos of cells which is below man, in order to see whether there is anything similar here. 3 kinds of cells with very distinct differences exist in man. 1. Brain cells. 2. Sex cells. 3. Body cells. Namely the cells composing our organs, skin and muscles, which are all different, but in a sense similar. Brain cells are shut off from the body in a special way with bony coverings, our skull and vertebrae, they are cushioned by water jackets from shock, they are completely isolated from the bodily organs, they get the best nourishment, and in starvation show the least changes. Brain cells live for the life period of man, and even for a time after his death, they are immortal in respect to the ordinary period of cell life, which is very roughly in the order of 24 hours. That is, they live 80 years of man's time, which is 2,400,000 years of their own time. They can be compared with the circle of conscious humanity, with those who have reached immortality. Sex cells are incomplete internally in a certain way, and they have a destiny quite different from that of any body cells. Body cells, the cells composing our liver, stomach, and so on, are constantly dividing in periods shorter and longer than 24 hours, maybe even months, yet of that order of period of time. These cells can be compared with mechanical humanity, which is under certain laws and must submit to them in one way or another. We can therefore arrange these cells in vertical order. Just as we arranged man in vertical order: conscious man, balanced man, and mechanical man. At present attention is simply drawn to this correspondence between the cosmos of man and the cosmos of cells. The cosmos of atoms and special kinds of atoms will be discussed later. What needs to be illustrated is that something is working in each cosmos, or if you prefer, that what exists in the cosmos of man must in some corresponding way exist in the cosmoses below him, for every cosmos is under the same laws.